Welcome to the Ultra Ascent Podcast. Your hosts, Alex Proctor and Mark Dowdle, are two aspiring professional runners with the goal to take you on a journey of making that dream a reality. You'll be given an inside look to what life is like as an unsponsored athlete and all the trials and tribulations that it entails. Along the way, they'll share how they train, what races and challenges are currently on their calendar, and how they aim to land support from brands. Alex intends to dominate in the professional trail running sector, taking souls and finishing on top the podium at the most premier trail races around the world, while Mark seeks to find new ways to discover the unknown and self-made, not yet accomplished ultra distance challenges. Let's get into the show. Alex, welcome back. You were at the running event this past week, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was the 18th through 20th in Austin, Texas, this past week. Today's the 27th, so about a week after. Had some time to reflect on it and get some energy back. It was quite the energy suck for sure, but well worth it. It started off with a 5 a.m. flight on Frontier to Denver, with a 6-hour layover there.
Yeah. Before you die, can we just talk about how this came about?
Okay, yeah,
Because
that's a good start.
let's take a step back here.
Yeah, so I had initially heard of the running event a while back. I mean, last year I'd seen all the content about it, and I knew it'd be somewhere I'd want to be at some point. I just didn't know when and how I'd be able to qualify to get in. So I ended up applying this year as a solo person, um, and not being in the retail running space led to a bit of issue there. They ended up denying me because I wasn't technically in the business, the running business, unfortunately, as we're both unemployed here.
Yeah.
But I ended up trying to get in another way, but in the meantime, I had Dowdle and myself. There's this deal for flights
Veterans Day.
on Veterans Day on Frontier. That was basically you get the flight free. You just have to pay for the taxes and fees. And we took that deal because I told him, I was like, we're gonna be able to make this work. Just trust me. Like, I don't know where we're staying yet. I don't know if we're gonna get accepted yet, but we'll find a way in. So we ended up purchasing those flights. The next day, I get a message saying I was denied from the pass. So I told him, I was like, we should cancel so we can get our full refund back for these flights. So we both canceled. It was the Tuesday before the show opened. So I was thinking that there's no chance we're getting in now. But I ended up throwing out a Hail Mary to it was the running event PR team, and I applied for a media pass instead and went that route with our podcast that we started this month,
Yeah.
in November. We've got 28 loyal subscribers, so thank you guys for pulling out all the stops for us. And it seemed like, I guess, our story was compelling enough that Becky, shout out to Becky for approving us and getting us in, approved the application and allowed me to have the media pass that ended up being a free pass into the event for all events, all days, and no strings attached. I was waiting for a catch, honestly.
Yeah.
Are they gonna require something out of me to show something? But no, it was just I got the badge at the event, and with that ability, I was able to get onto the show floor and meet a lot of great people and hear a lot of great things.
So you had gotten the pass. We had made the decision that because we had already canceled the tickets, prices went from 142 to like 500
Yeah, it
on
was
the flights.
yeah
So I
for
decided that
Frontier.
for Frontier. So I decided that the cost was not worth it on my end. You were like, "Hey, you're going," but
Yes.
the flights were. It was a hectic flying day because you had to fly in, then you had a 6 or 12 hour layover, and then
Yeah.
worked into getting into to Austin from there.
Yes, and luckily, yeah, it was a long day, but luckily, Natalie, one of her former soccer teammates, and our good friend Maddie Bombsta, she lives down there now with her parents, so they were able to take me in for the week, which really helped out a lot to cut costs because it would have been a much more expensive trip.
Yeah.
Having to pay for a room, having to find somewhere to stay, that stress really was alleviated by them. So they really clutched up. I want to put together a document or something. We'll probably post something. I'll post something on Instagram, I think, on the page, along with this announcement that shows just trip costs and expenses, so people can get a better understanding of like what I paid for, what was covered by like the people I know, because I was fed pretty well by them as well. It was like they didn't want me to not be full. It's not that they didn't want me to be hungry. They didn't want me to be like not full. So
Yeah.
I was fed the entire time. It was awesome.
And it was a busy week for you. What you first touched down on, was it Tuesday?
I touched on Monday night. Immediately walked to Walgreens to pick up these Ultra
Business
Ascent
cards.
business cards that
Yep.
Natalie had printed. That was another thing I wanted to make sure I had to be able to pass out to anyone that I felt needed one. So we were stressing the Sunday night before the flight to get those out, looking through Reddit to figure out the best method. It turns out Walgreens is convenient and close in most areas. I picked them up. They didn't do the best job at cutting. Someone didn't have their best day at cutting the cards. They were, there was a lot of white space on these things. I'm not sure if I have one around me. Yeah, here we go. So, it wasn't symmetrical. Like
Oh,
this thing is
nice.
cut pretty unevenly. But as you can see here, I got Alex Proctor, Ultra Ascent Podcast co-host.
That's legit.
And then, yeah, Natalie, give credit to Natalie for this. I was packing up, just being a frantic ADHD guy, and she was locked in making this on Canva. So, got the Instagram for my personal, got the YouTube channel for Ultra Ascent, and they got the Instagram there, so people knew where to find us. So, ended up
The logo
walking back.
looks good.
Yeah, the logo looks
dude.
sweet.
Yeah.
The logo looks really nice. Looks official. I think that might have been like the seller for anyone that was, I hand these out. They got a huge white spot here. Shows a little bit of character, but it looks
God.
has at least a little bit of structure. So, shout out to Walgreens. Pretty cheap. It ended up being like, what was it? Like $14 total for like the fast shipping, and like 40 business cards. So, ended up handing out about 15 of them. So about a third of them, and then some people refused to take them. They wanted to just have like a digital like card or like give me their digital contact rather than having this,
Yeah, those get lost all the time.
they get lost. Yeah. So
So lead up, what was your first experience at the running event, where you're like, wow, I'm here. This is
Yeah,
legit.
so-
Talk us through that.
yeah. So as I was trying to organize my thoughts and what I was going to do for the event, there was a day, Tuesday, which was mostly for the run specialty stores and employees. It was a day when the expo hadn't opened yet, and the brands were basically setting up their booths. And then during that time, there was a bunch of like seminars and like classes for these retail specialty businesses and business owners to learn stuff. So to open up that day on Tuesday, there was an event with ASICS. They held like a trail cleanup, which was pretty fun. I ended up running there because I didn't have a vehicle. So it was a 4.5 mile-ish run downtown to Austin, which is still super convenient and something I'm very like grateful for, to be that close, to even be able to run that close. So went down there, got in the lobby, tried to get my bearings straight, had my like, GoPro camera out, like almost vlogging during the thing. So people might have not even woken up yet and had some like, there's a little shock. They're
Camera
like,
in their face.
Yeah, camera on their face. But I ended up, not being the one with the biggest camera, for sure. There's plenty of people with them. I get into the hotel lobby where everyone's meeting, and there's a few groups meeting. So I initially, went up to the wrong group. They're like, "Hey, what are you here for?" And I was like, "Yeah, I co-host a podcast." They're like, "Oh, we're all like distributors and like retail specialty. Like your group is like over there." So I was like, "Okay, like that's a little awkward." But I'll head over there. Ended up just talking to a bunch of just running specialty folks there in the morning, as the people with the brands either hadn't got in yet, or were setting up their booths as we spoke. So it was cool. I met a guy from Alberta. He's run some ultras in the past, but he runs a shop there. We ended up going down to Ladytown Lake, cleaning up the local trail there. It's super busy. It's probably one of the most well-trafficked running trails in the U.S. There was not a time where there wasn't more than like 1,000 people on that trail at one time.
Oh my gosh.
It was excessive, especially with all the runners coming to the area for the running event. So it started off with that. It was a good time to pick up some trash. It was actually really fun. Like I could see myself going out and doing that now with like one of those little grabbers, like that long stick. Handed out some gloves. We had to demo some Asics shoes, some trash cans. As far as networking connection goes for that one, I'm not sure if it was totally valuable in that regard for someone in our position, because we can't really relate to the running specialty store owners and business owners in a way, or there's not much connection there. I feel like between us. I mean, we can connect on the running level,
Yeah.
but it's they're there for a specific reason. They want to see what brands are there at the running event, and if they can, have them in their stores or not. So it was a fun event to get settled in and kind of get my feet wet.
A low stakes type of environment.
Low stakes for sure. We
Yeah.
were running along, walking along the river and picking up trash, and people ended up lone wolfing it most of the time. I think it was the first event. People were kind of just warming up to, people's interaction of,
Yeah.
You're interacting with people from all around the globe.
Right.
So it's hard to figure that out. People are getting that awkwardness out early. So then after that, ended up wandering around for a bit, and then meeting up with my friend Steven. He was down there with Asics for a shoot, to shoot for their 2025 line. Big model guy. So he was shooting for them. We ended up grabbing breakfast at a random little spot that was underneath a building in an alley. And it was funny. We ended up meeting a guy there just randomly. He has an app. It's I want to make sure I'm getting the name right. Let's see. He has an app that allows you to not worry about directions or navigation when you're running. And it's cool because it's voice activated. So it's called Run Go. And it was cool because it was just such an organic interaction. We were both randomly getting breakfast there, and he would possibly need a videographer for his next shoot, to go about filming for that, because he was hosting an activation at one of the hotels for this app and some of the routes around Austin. So Steven tried to take him up on that. I'm not sure if it ended up falling through or not, because Steven had to leave the next day, but it was a cool time to meet him there. And then after that, I ended up going to one of the sessions in the convention center. That was, I think it was about social media and content, hosted by Kofuzi and Tommy Runs. I'm sure that you guys have seen them on Instagram if you're in the running community. Kofuzi does some shoe reviews, and Tommy runs quite a bit of marathons in the U.S. But they just were giving some tips to, I think, mostly retail specialty stores on how they can leverage social media to bring in new customers and keep customers at their businesses. So all in all, I think that I could have probably got in on Tuesday evening. I don't think it was necessary for someone in our position to be there on that Tuesday for that day. I think it would have been more beneficial for those retail specialty stores. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking of going to the running event, and you want to be there for Tuesday, just know that it's pretty uneventful in terms of time to network and make connections with, brands or people in the industry that aren't retail specialty stores.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's a good setup for if anybody is like has the time and is able to get there. I'm sure it's
mm,
beneficial for the setup and getting comfortable and getting your feet wet. But what I want to talk about with you is the actual event itself. And just to give people some background and lay the foundation here, um, our whole podcast is about you and I in our uh, specific industries or fields, ultra running, trail running for you, and trying to make that a professional career. And so there's this intertwinedness between you being there for your personal direction in the industry, but also it ties perfectly into the podcast. And we got this pass through the podcast. So there's this weird like, all right, you're there for the podcast, but you're also like you're stepping into that space with the intention of making connections with brands so that you can get sponsored. So can you talk a little bit about what it was like walking in there, your mindset going in on that first day, and how you went about interacting with people at the booths? Was it something you were had the intention of trying to make connections with people and be very tactical about it, or were you just walking around a little bit more wide-eyed and just kind of open to anything that came across you? So can you
yeah.
talk a little bit about like what happened on event day?
Yeah, so the event opened up on Wednesday at 9 a.m. And going into it, it might have been it might have been the most like nervous and anxious I'd ever been feeling in my life. I had never gone to that length to accomplish like, a dream or a goal in that way before, like professionally, like flying across the country to an expo to meet people I'd never met before, to be there basically alone with no backup, nobody.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
mean, this
walk,
was put together within like
yeah,
5 days before the event.
it
So this
was,
is,
it was. So, um, in my fashion and how I tend to operate, a lot of it was shooting from the hip. Um, I would see a brand that I was interested in or a brand I had history with in terms of like wearing either their shoes or their gear, or I just like, use their fuel. And I think eventually I had developed this strategy as time went on, but it took a few goes. So I initially just went up to booths, and they would look at your badge and like see like who you are, because they'd probably cater the conversation different
yep.
ways depending on if you're a retailer, if you're a media person. So I'd
And they're
introduce myself.
probably looking for the retailer because they want to make a sale.
Yes, they want to do that, and they like have their like spiel like practiced and ready
Yep.
to go. Exactly. So in a way, I didn't want to like make it seem like I was wasting their time
Right.
at
Right.
all. So I wanted to make it like, as concise and as valuable to them as it would be to me. So in going up to them, I would start with, asking questions about their shoes, about the technology that they're using, because that's like kind of what the trade show is about, the up and coming new shoes and gear. And I am interested in it. I'm a huge gearhead.
Yeah.
I
You
love
nerd
shoes.
out over that.
I nerd out on that. So it was fun to like show my passion and my like interest in that and my knowledge in that way, and it kind of gave the person a feel for who I am. And then as we got talking, we'd start to learn more about each other. I had already introduced that I had the podcast, but didn't ask more about it initially. And then they're like, "Oh, so tell me more about this podcast and what you do on it." So I'd explain like what the podcast is about. We're two aspiring um, runners that want to become professionals in this sport, and we're documenting our journey to, sponsorship, to partnership, and our training along the way. And all of a sudden, like they would become a little bit more interested in that rather than the shoes, and we talk about like our journeys in running if they're a runner, ultra runner, and then from there, depending on how I'd feel the conversation out, like I would just suggest like following up with them if there's like any way to contact them after this, like if there's any opportunities for us in a way that would like help to bridge us together, which was interesting for sure. I didn't want to um, I didn't want to position it in a way where, I'm in here just looking for deals or partnerships, because that wasn't the point.
Right.
I wanted to get like my face in front of these people and for them to know who we are in person and
Yeah.
what we're about in person, because I know that these are the type of people that could be coming across our podcast, could be viewing it, and might want to take something away from it, but they don't know exactly who we are. So I think
And
that was
and
a huge benefit.
you had mentioned yesterday when we talked on the phone about flipping the perspective from an online interaction or online relationship to the in person. Was there a moment during the event where you're like, "Oh wow, I'm happy that I made this trip to be here in person to talk to this person. This would have never happened over like a DM." Is there a moment where that clicked for you?
Yeah, there's a few actually. I mean, there's a good amount. I don't think I don't think any of these reactions or interactions, I should say, would have happened through a message or DM. I don't even know if I would have gotten a message back
Right.
or a response from these people, which is cool because like this event forces people to interact with you, like even if they don't necessarily like need to,
Mm,
like.
yeah, yeah. They're
But
in a
at the
box. They gotta
yes,
be there.
yes,
Yeah.
which is like, it sounds wrong, but I don't think I really walked away from a booth where they're like, oh, like who is that like schmuck? Like, who does he
Right.
think he is coming in here? Like, they could see that I was genuine and authentic about it, and that like I was trying to pave a way for this, and that I was hustling. Like they respected what I was doing rather than thinking like, oh, this guy's trying to use this sport as a business, like Matt Choi, like that type of
Yeah.
thing. Um, but yeah, there was a few moments. So I think one of the bigger ones was at Hoka. Um, some people have differing thoughts about Hoka, but I think it was beneficial to talk to them because I think that they're a huge leader in our sport and a lot of things that are coming from it right now, and they've got a lot of the funds and the money to fund a lot of the positive efforts that are going on. So I talked to them. I was at first like interested in their shoes, just browsing their shoes. They had some new trail runners coming out, so I wanted to talk to someone about that. But Hoka, being who they are, they were probably the busiest booth of all time. Like there was not one
Bet.
time where I felt like anyone there was free to talk. Like everyone was just the entire convention, 8 hours both days talking. Um, so I ended up finding someone by the name of Aaron Potts. Um, he he also has a podcast that we ended up bonding over. Eventually, he wanted to find someone that could talk to me about the trail running shoes more and get more in depth about it, but he ended up not finding anybody, so we were stuck talking to each other. And so we ended up talking more about the podcast, talking about our journeys in the running world, and he was talking about how he got his foot in the door at Hoka and how he started at a run shop, moved on to Running Warehouse as an online provider of shoes, and then worked his way into a job at Hoka, which is cool. I thought that it was cool that he was hustling, he was making his way. Um, and then we talked about the podcast more and how like that's shaped who we are. And like I was just telling him, I just started mine out, so asking for any tips from him. And it was cool because his focus is on a lot about like black culture in running. It's called
Mm.
Two Black Runners. It's him and his brother, and they do some cool things where they like do some interviews, live interviews at events, which I think that it would be cool for us to incorporate, and it's something that
Yeah.
we talked about for hopefully next year's running event. I think that'd be a cool segment to break into. But things were flowing really well. Conversation was going well, and then I asked him like if he was also a brother in Christ, and
Mm.
he said that he was, which was like I just like hugged him at that point. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, I could totally tell like you were totally reflecting God's image and just treating me with such kindness and love, and it's been really cool to know you. And then like after that, he ended up saying like, "Oh yeah, like you have like the same energy and smile as my friend Sam, who's over at the Rabbit booth, Run
Mm.
Rabbit, which is like an apparel brand." So he's like, "You should go
Mm-hmm.
and meet him." So then eventually I worked my way over there, met his friend Sam, who I think that you and him would get together really well. And like, I don't know if I have his business card here, but no, I think he took mine. I don't think he had one. Um, I think he took mine, and I'd be able to find him easy. But he's a former football player that hated running, and now like he's like full bore into it, like ultras and everything. Like he's
Sounds like
like
my guy.
he's like our total match, dude. Like this guy's sweet. And he's still like he's built like a brick, like what house. Like this dude is a beast.
Like middle linebacker type.
Yes, totally. Yeah, a absolute beast. But he was awesome. They've got like a run club in I think Santa Barbara, California together. Him and
Mm.
Aaron, that they run. So that one was like more of like a friendship kind of thing.
Yeah.
Him and I um, really want to like keep connecting, and if I'm ever in California, I'm for sure gonna hit him up. But the other like I don't know if I want to call it funny, coincidental. Like I think it's in my opinion, I think it's God's plan. But meeting Aaron, he is the North American manager of go-to-market accounts for retail specialty. And funny enough, before the event, like that's one of the only like positions, a go-to-market associate for specialty retail at Hoka, open on LinkedIn as a remote position.
Oh yeah.
So like that's something that I was looking at getting into at some point because I could see myself, working for them in some way or another. Love their shoes, love their product, um, and so I just connected with him about that. Asked him if there's a best way to apply, and he said, "Oh no, it's just like you'd apply on the normal Deckers website." So I ended up applying for that position. You know, I wouldn't say that I have probably a percent chance of even hearing back from that, but I just like wanted to put it out there and like see what would happen from it. I think him being like the only person that I could talk to and that being the
Yeah.
only role open was like kind of telling like maybe you should just see what happens. And
Yeah.
if you get an interview or if you make a connection from it, like that's cool. But coming away from that connection, I was like made a friend, um, super nice that I like, and that was like one of the first interactions that I had at the event. So I was like, oh man, like I should be here. This is exactly where I should be. My nerves were kind of calmed. My anxiety was kind of calmed. Like, if I'm meeting these kind of people at this event, like, this is where I should be.
Mm.
Um, so that was cool. One more that I had um, on the same tune was more so flipping people's perspectives. I didn't really have to flip Aaron's. I think he kind of understood where I was coming from. But one was at a run club. I believe is on Tuesday evening. I talked to a professional level ultra trail runner, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I think I've like come across your page before," um, and we somehow got on the topic of my my bio, which is you know becoming a professional ultra runner, and from his perspective, I feel like he might have had like when he came across my page initially, he might have had a knee jerk reaction that was like, who the hell is this guy? Like, who does he think he is? Like, putting this out there, it's super bold. Um, is he in it for the right reasons? Um, does he actually mean this? Like, is he just trying to become an influencer and kind of using it as like clickbait in a way? But in talking to him more about what our goals with this podcast and what we're trying to do with like documenting our journey, he really like his perspective kind of changed and flipped. It was cool to see because he understood, you know, we're not in this just for us. We're in this to bring along people that are in our same position right now and that are coming after us as well, because there's not really anything out there that documents like how to do it, how to become a professional ultra trail runner, and that's kind of like the basis of this podcast. So it was cool to like show him that like we're in this for the long haul, we're doing this for the right reasons, and I ended up following up with him in a message after on Instagram, and we ended up connecting, and he ended up like following me too. So like now he's interested in the journey and wants to see how it goes for him. So
And one of the things he had mentioned that you told me is that he gave us or gave you sort of an he basically let you know that like other people have done what we're doing in terms
okay,
of coming from like a football background like myself or a lacrosse background or a baseball background, and there's this sentiment of paying homage to the people that have come before us. And you and I had
yes,
talked about that on the phone yesterday about how I think we're seeing a lot in this running space right now of people that are getting into the sport because they see it as a business opportunity. They see it as an opportunity to make content and marketing and do things that are seemingly um, what's the right word?
for me it seems just ingenuine.
Yeah,
It's
disingenuous. Yeah,
disingenuine. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of thought behind it, um, but in the wrong ways in terms of like using people to put money in their pockets. Like
yeah,
that's like the sole like not the sole reason, but I'd say like that's the foundation of a lot of like the content that I'm seeing now. It's not really going into depth of like what they're doing, why they're doing it. It's more like look at me, I'm running this race, like I've got e-bikes on a course, like
yeah,
I'm better than you, that type
yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
But
Um,
that was another interaction actually that I had with a professional trail runner. That was a separate conversation. So like these are two like high level athletes that were giving like this wisdom and advice and almost taking me under their wing and mentoring me in a way which
mm,
I thought was really cool and thoughtful because they could have had that reaction and seen it as a situation that was like I want to avoid this,
yeah,
but they called me in.
yeah,
They wanted to bring me in and to help me out, and they know that like we're young and we're learning how to go about this, so they kind of want to make sure that we are not going off the path and like doing something dumb that's gonna we're gonna regret later.
yeah. And,
Um,
and I mean, like we both got in the sport because, I mean, you watched a YouTube documentary. I watched a Netflix documentary on Iron Cowboy. So like we first got in the sport because we saw people living in a way that we wanted to live. We wanted to
yes.
embody. And even still to this day, we look up in awe. And there's this saying that we had at St. Thomas for the football program. It's just a saying that a lot of programs have, but like we stand on the shoulders of giants. We stand on the people that have come before us, and only because of the people that have come before us are we able to be here in this moment. And so like the respect that we have for people in the sport currently is as high as it possibly could, and we just want to now take our situation, knowing that that's a place we want to get to, document that, and then basically hand off the the playbook to people that want to come that are in our situation right now today or younger. Um, so I really, I mean, I appreciate those guys took you aside and basically, in not so many words, said that,
Yes.
because it also shows what the sport is really all about at its core, and maybe in a way, how it it needs to hold that integrity that it's losing right now.
Exactly.
And there's an opportunity for us to keep holding true to that.
Exactly. Yeah. So we want to keep carrying it on, and I think that was really well put, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, that's exactly how we want to portray ourselves. That's like the perspective that we want to hold as well. So I thought it was really cool that they pulled me aside and they wanted to keep pushing us on the right path. But the, this is a funny story and interlude that I want to jump into. Like to even to even get to have this conversation with this athlete about us making sure that we respect like what's been done before us and go about this in the right way. Like, so we met on a cool down run together of a 5K event that anyone that was attending the event could get in for free. So I got the bib, when I was signing up for my badge, and the morning of the race, I put it on, all ready to go. Ended up having like a really easy mile and a half warm up run to get to the course. I didn't have to run downtown and take the shuttle that everyone else was taking to this event. It ended up being really close to where I was staying. So I was like, oh, like man, like I'm like so lucky. Like I don't have to take this run. I don't have to take a bus. So I ran there. Google Maps ended up taking me to a gate of a military defense base. I didn't realize the 5K was on, like, it was called Camp Mabry. So I didn't realize that the event was literally held on a military base. So
Oh my gosh.
I was like, the gate's closed. Google Maps just left me out here. I'm like on the side of a highway now, like on like an on ramp under a bridge. So I'm like, what can I do? Like this is the only, like literally like one of the only fences I can't hop. It's like 12, 15 feet at least. Some people were saying 20. I'm not gonna say that, but it was like 12, 15 feet. It was spiked. So I'm like, dude, what do I do? This 5K like race starts in 10 minutes. Like I'm not gonna just run back home like with my tail tucked between my legs. I gotta do this somehow. So I'm like looking at Google Maps, like how do I get around? Like if I go around like the way it says to go, it'd be way too long. Like I wouldn't make the race. It would probably be like another 2 miles, 3 miles. So then I'm like, what do I do? So then I look at Google Maps. I see that the highway runs parallel with like the base, and the course is like super close to the highway. So then I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna run down the highway. Screw it. So like, I like get on like the barrier on the right side of the highway, like running on it, like balancing and like almost falling off. But like cars are honking, everyone's bringing attention to me. I'm like, dude, like, come on, just let me be. I have like my bib on. I have my like shorts and singlet on. I look like a total doofus. And then I get to where I'm like right parallel with the course. I see people like warming up, the race about to start. And then I see someone with a neon like safety vest, like directing people to park. And I'm like, I pull myself like hang on the fence, like I'm like trying to like break out of somewhere. And I'm like, hey, like I'm in this race, like I have the bib on, like I'm like panicking. Like, can you please like is there any way like I can get in? She's like, well, the gate's on the other side, like everyone's like getting bussed in here. So I'm like, okay, like what do I do now? She's like, so I'm like, can I just jump this thing? And she's like, no, but you can try. Um, so I was like, she's like, do you know this like a military base? I was like, now I do, but I don't really have much choice. Like I have to race this. I wanted to like get in here. So then I ended up like climbing up the gate, and it ended up not even being like that hard. So for legal reasons, I didn't climb the gate,
Yeah.
and I didn't jump onto the military base. But it ended up pumping my adrenaline so much that I ended up having a much better race than I thought I could, which was cool. Because
So
it was,
moral of the story is trespass on a military base
yes,
before
moral
a
story,
race.
like you meet cool people if you trespass. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
No, I'm
yeah.
kidding. Yeah, so that was a funny story, but that was the only way I was going to be able to even like get to this conversation, organically.
Mm.
Like I'd seen this guy at the start line, said hi to him, greeted him. He probably didn't know who I was in that moment. But then we were cooling down, like kind of running past each other, and like he waved me over with one of his friends that he was running with, and
Mm.
just started talking to me, which is really cool. But yeah, that was the second day of the event, the start of the second day. In that first day, I'm gonna go over a list of like brands just I talked to and some of the people I talked to quick. The first was North Face. I talked to Esther Kendall. She walked me through a lot of the product, the new product that North Face has to offer, but she's also the athlete manager for their team. So it's cool to hear from her again. Athletes of the likes of Zach Miller, Seth Ruling, now Claire Rhodes, like she manages their contracts. So it was cool to see her and meet her and share a connection there. Merrill was another one that I wanted to to go up to and talk with. I didn't talk to anyone else there besides Corey Waltering, who, if you guys remember, he was the professional athlete for Merrill that I had talked to during the Grindstone race, and someone I've been corresponding with about Merrill and a potential, partnership there at some point or another. So it's cool just to talk to him, see what he's been up to, catch up. He's someone that I consider a friend now, which is really cool. Really genuine guy. And the thing I love about Merrill is that everyone there has a family vibe to it. I mean, they're based out of Michigan. Seems like everyone, is authentic. They want to just show the power of being outside, and they're a brand that I could see myself like almost aligning with totally in terms of my values and what I'm shooting for there. So it's cool to talk to him, and along with him, I talked to another one of their athletes, Reed Burrows, who has been documenting his journey quite a bit, which is really inspiring and cool to see. He's ran Leadville a few times. He's swung really hard at it, has gone for it, and I like that he is unapologetically himself, and he puts himself out there for people to critique, for people to talk about. He's not afraid of the limelight, and someone I really look up to in the sport. So it's cool to talk to him as well and meet him. And funny enough, I had met him at my first Satisfy running group run on, I think it was the first opening, before the opening of the expo on Wednesday. Sorry, folks, if it's hard to track here, like I'm jumping all around because this event was like sporadic. It was just so many things going on at once. But if you're tracking, I met Reed Burrows, this professional ultra trail runner for Merrill and Scratch Labs and other brands, HydroPack as well, at the Satisfy group run. And going into the Satisfy group run, I didn't really know what to expect. I'm not someone that really, has tattoo sleeves. I don't have, a wardrobe that really consists of like only like earth tones and like ripped up band tees. Like I went to this event having a red shirt, and it was the funniest thing because every other single person in like this group of 30 to 40 almost had like a uniform on, which at first I was thrown off by. I was like, is this like a cult? Like, what is this thing? Like, am I in the right place? I'm the only one that has like a shirt that's bright colored here. But in running with these people and getting to know like the brand better, their athletes, the executives there, people that are working for the brand in the States now, they're based out in Paris, France. I was pleasantly surprised by how much they both rooted for each other and supported each other and genuinely backed each other up. I think in a lot of conversations I had, it was really easy to get past surface level conversations and just talk about life in general and like some of the struggles that we're going through fast, because it just felt like they had open hearts and they wanted to bring more people in. I think I was a little put off by them initially, Satisfy the brand as a whole, because their prices of their clothing is just so absurd to me that I can't even afford it and I'm totally priced out. So it's like, I can't really like get behind that because I truly can't afford it, nor do I think I would pay for it. But in talking to people at the brand, it's like, I don't think there are better people to run like a brand that wants to break into the running industry and that has been breaking into the running industry for a while. I think that what they're doing like is totally different from all the other like Hoka's, North Face, Saucony, those brands that almost have like a playbook of how to like corporately get it done and how to pump sales. Like these guys are breaking in another way where they're trying to, they're bringing people in by who they are, not by what they sell initially. And then people end up buying what they buy when they're in because they want to, support this vision and this community. which is cool. I wish the prices were a bit cheaper so I could like feel like I'm more a part of it, but they don't discriminate. They don't care. Like I think a lot of people that were at that group run just had like earth tone stuff, and it wasn't Satisfy branded. It was like they just had this look to them where it was like we're one cohesive unit. Um, we like lock arms and we're with each other. Like it was cool. Like they were actually waiting for people in this group run. It wasn't a run where like you felt like you're gonna be dropped at a certain pace. They were, stopping at intersections to like hold off like cars at the crosswalks to make sure that people were getting across safely. Like they were really catering to people that wanted to feel like they were cared for, which is really awesome. And it really opened my eyes to the brand. I didn't know what to expect, but it seemed like based on the price of their clothing, it seemed like there would be more people involved in the brand that were like, I'd say in my opinion, like posers that like wanted to look like they were doing something more than they were. But these people were about it. Like these people were totally about it. And their booth at Satisfy was one of the most like eye-catching and interesting. It was just like this huge like box that no one could really see into unless you were in there. And they were releasing a cool new shoe that they intend to drop soon. That their attention to detail is second to none. Everything from the box, like that was based like on an RC car, the detail there to all the different specs of the shoe, which is really awesome. So no
So
cutting corners.
you had a lot of good experiences, a lot of interactions with people. Sounds like the trip was overall worth it for you. Um, the last story I want you to talk about real briefly is I mean, Ultra Ultra Ascent got highlighted in the top 15 most what interesting things or new things to check
Yes,
out.
yes, dude, that was huge. I mean, man, I can't even believe that. Like that is like that is just unbelievable to me. So Shelby Farrell with Ultra Sign Up. She's the senior content marketing manager there. She's someone I met a few times briefly as she was walking around the event with Alyssa Clark, who is a pro trail runner for On. And they were buddied up, going around just checking things out. And her story was 15 unexpectedly delightful discoveries at TRE. If you want to search that up on the internet, it's pretty easy to find. Otherwise, you can put it in the bio, but no guarantees. Don't quote us on that.
Yeah.
So, she went around the whole running event, checked out a lot of things. I think it's impossible to check out everything. So these are some of the things that caught her eye. So one of which was like a running vest, a sandal, a shoe, a person, a sock, underwear, a peanut butter mile world championship, soup, water bottle, and then number 15 of the 15 unexpectedly delightful discoveries here was the Ultra Ascent podcast, dude.
Dude, that's us.
That's huge. So what she said was, I crossed paths with Alex Proctor in the media room, where he told me about his podcast, Ultra Ascent. This podcast follows the journey of two aspiring professional runners, sharing the highs, lows, and everything in between as they work toward their goals. Starting a podcast like this takes a unique level of vulnerability and dedication, and it's exciting to see them documenting their process. They're just getting started, and you should definitely check them out on YouTube. She even embedded the link to follow their journey and get a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to go pro in the world of ultra running. And then she just took a picture of my badge for the image. Wasn't much chance to get a better one, but that will do the trick. That is so cool that we're being recognized already within a month for what we're doing and publicly endorsed by one of the biggest ultra and trail run sign-up sites in the world. Everyone visits this site to sign up for races in the trail and ultra running scene. So it's really cool that they are supporting us and wanting to see us succeed. And a comment that she had left on the latest post I made about this was really cool and kind of telling. She said, "I genuinely appreciate people who effing go for it. Content production, running goals, I'm here for it." So I thought that, like, what does that mean to you? Like, what does that say to you?
I mean, that's the story of how that interaction even came to be. I mean, you think about all of the decisions that both you and I had to make leading into that. I mean, not just in the past. I was looking at YouTube here, and we posted that first episode 3 weeks ago. So it's been 3 weeks since we posted. We've been recording episodes for probably a month and a half, but even before that, it's just every decision that you've made to go out to Colorado or go out to Utah, that I've made to leave my job, to um, go all in on YouTube. And it's just like all of these things that has been the theme between you and I and making this dream a reality. And yeah, we're effing just going for it. And it's rough around the edges for sure, kind of like your business cards. But at the end of the day,
Come on, dude. The
the
stray.
message, the meat of the message is still extremely valuable, and it's only going to grow from here. So I'm I'm encouraged. I know I said this to you last night on the phone. Like extremely encouraged by the interactions and conversations and your takeaway from the event because it just I don't know. It just shows that there are more things than we could possibly be aware of in the works,
Hmm.
and all we can do or all we should do is just continue to put our heads down and work and know that if we find opportunities like you did this weekend or last week, we'll like there's no way we can lose. There's no way
Yes.
we can lose.
Yes.
And so yeah, it's just I mean, it's cool when you get moments like that where you feel like um you kind of pick your head up and you're like, what the heck am I even doing? Like nothing's working. I don't feel like I'm putting this message out to the world, or I'm trying to contact these sponsors or these companies, and I don't feel like I'm getting anything back. And then you get somebody who recognizes that, and that could sustain you another 6 months. Like
Yeah.
it could just give you enough kick to keep going. And so I just, after talking on the phone and hearing you today, it's just like another reminder for us to keep going.
Yes. Yes. There's a lot of people out there that we might not even know, that have seen our stuff, and even if they haven't seen our stuff, they think what we're doing is good and it's a good idea. We just have to get it in front of them and allow them to see, exactly how we're doing it, which is, man, like, I can't even believe like this is even coming together, but like just so many things had to like happen right for it to even for this to even be for there to be a chance that this even happens. Like, unbelievable. And I want to shout out a few people that like helped to make this happen, especially Natalie, my wife. Like, I couldn't do this without her support for this, like her believing in this goal and this journey, and backing me not only with love but like, financially too. Like, she's helping to support this and make this happen. So I'm not doing this alone. We're not doing this alone. Like, we're in this together, and there's other people behind the scenes that are really helping us out to make some of these goals happen. Like, it's not like, I don't know if any of this really would be possible truly alone, nor would I want to do it truly alone.
Mm.
This is a team effort for sure, and we're just the vessels for what's to come. People are powering us up with things like this, and gassing us up, which is huge. It's like, I don't think we necessarily need the external validation, but this stuff fires me up. Like,
Yeah.
it really puts me over the edge. Like, when emotions are kind of like running, being in the position we are, I feel like I've been a lot more, my emotions have been a lot more tumultuous, from what I've noticed. So that's something to think about if you find yourself in the same situation. Like, it's normal for you to have high highs and low lows. And that's kind of what I've been experiencing now since I haven't had a job, or since I've been in this position that's a lot more uncomfortable. Um, you seem to get some news that, or hear something that makes you super, super happy. You hear some of them that, makes you super, super sad, and um, and mad. I mean, just to put it simply, like there's a lot of things that I feel like I'm taking to heart more in this position. Like maybe it's I have a little less to think about, but um, just know that it's normal to feel those emotions if you know you're walking this path. Um, Anything else? Do we want to catch up on how our training's been going to finish it out here?
Yeah, we'll take the last 5 minutes here to close out on that. I just put up a video this morning on my last week of training. So last week is a 140-mile week for me, Calendar Club.
Holy,
Um, and I'd say for the most part it went well. I'm finding it difficult as I hop into this week and it being 189 to potentially being a 250-mile week.
mm.
um, with a 100 miler I'm doing on Friday, a
Casually.
last minute turkey trot. There's a group that runs from Chicago to Milwaukee every year. Um, so I'm planning on participating with them. But these last few weeks, I remember it was the same way last year when I did Calendar Club. In the holiday season, coming home, I've traveled back to Chicago 3 times this month, this being the third. And so finding 6 hours to just go out the door and make it happen is not always easy. But like you just said, it's about understanding that it's okay to recognize how you feel. It's okay to recognize that you're in a low moment, but the thing that you can rely on is the consistency and your commitment to the
Mm,
action.
yes.
And so I'm just trying to hold true to that. Be like, yeah, this is the hard part of the month, but at the same time, um, you know, at least right now, I have a house to come back to. I have a warm shower to come back to. I can dip in and grab a coffee. Or last night, I grabbed 2 slices of cheese pizza at a Pizza by the Slice place. And I'm going to have to start learning that I won't be able to do that at Arrowhead. Like
Oh yeah, that
it's
comfort. It's
the discomfort,
non-existent.
it's non-existent. So um, I'm trying to I'm trying to take in every every challenge that I'm facing now and almost like not hold it so closely to me and let it go, knowing that it's only gonna get a lot worse, and I want to get more comfortable with that. So
Yeah, and for our viewers, if they're not following you on Instagram or if they're curious, why have you decided to do the calendar club again? What was your rationale behind that? Um, and yeah, just touch on that a
yeah,
bit more.
so I'm really bad. People don't believe me when I say this, and maybe you'll feel this way about yourself, but I don't know. I am a lazy person. Like, I will find any and every excuse to not do something
Yeah.
that's hard. And so when I was in the month of September, I decided that I was going to just run as I pleased. Whenever I felt like getting out the door for however long I got out the door, that's what I do. Well, I ended up running 100 miles total in that month, which is for what I'm planning for, what I'm training for, just not enough.
Hmm.
I like to get 500 miles a month, however that may look. And with Calendar Club, it's on 31-day months it's 496. So it's about 500 miles a month with Calendar Club. It's this progression of adding 1 mile to the day, and it's something where I don't have to think at all about my training. I don't have to say, all right, I'm running 20 miles this day, 18 this day, 5 this day. Um, Although people are like, well, it's just split them up. It's like it just doesn't click in my brain that way. I can't. I need something external to hold me accountable. And a great example of this was 2 weeks ago when I was running with my brother here. We went out for a 13-mile run. It was the 15th or 16th that day, and when we got back, it was like, all right, like if I wasn't doing Calendar Club,
Yeah, there's
it would have just been like those 12 miles would have been great. Like that would have been it. But it was because I had this other challenge going on that I went out the door again to finish off those last 3 miles. And that's what this challenge does for me. It puts me in that mindset of like not settling for when I feel like I've done enough work. It it makes me go the extra mile and do the work that needs to be done in order to accomplish the goals I have. And my proof of concept is the Walsall last person standing. That's my proof of concept. It's like I won that race after a year of doing Calendar Club. And it might not be something I use forever, but right now that is the thing that's getting me not just across the finish line, but winning and coming across that finish line in first place. So that would be that would be a main few reasons why Calendar Club is back and taking stock in my life.
Awesome, dude. And so, I guess as the months get colder and the weather gets a bit more frigid, are you starting to think about how you're going to practice for Arrowhead and keeping your water warm, keeping your food intact? Like, you
Yeah.
know how you're going to go about that?
I thought about that the other day. Kellen and I went for a run. It was 30 degrees. And I was just like, dang, I can't imagine a 60-degree swing in the negative direction because, I mean, I was cold. I mean, I
Yeah.
was wearing shorts, but um, what I've typically done in the winter is just wear shorts, layer up top, and I've been good. But every 8 or 9 miles, I'll dip into a Lunds& Byerly's or a grocery store and fill up on water, get some food.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm gonna have to try and do, leading into December and beginning of January, is layer up like I would layer up for Arrowhead and just run at a slower pace and get in the training habit of putting taking off layers when I get too hot, putting layers back on. And so I'm hoping for some really cold days, so I can train in that. But I'm starting to think about that. But yeah, I just ordered my sled.
The
Yeah,
sled order is
the sled got
crazy.
ordered. I did order some Speedland. What are they?
Is it the GSPGH or GS PDX?
The SVTs.
What? You got those?
I got those. Based
Nice,
on my
dude.
based on my conversations with, I mean, someone had recommended the, what shoes were those? What's the one that starts with an S? Let's see. I don't know. Um, it was a shoe company, but it wasn't something I was used to, so I went with Speedlens and um,
Interesting, dude.
yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Um,
Nice.
what's your training look like? At what week are you in? Six
I
or
think I'm
seven?
on 8 now. It's my
8?
I'm in my 8th week. I had the 4 week kind of like base maintenance week coming off of Grindstone, and now I'm in my final week of like speed development and turnover. So been working on that quite substantially, doing 2 workouts a week. Last week I did a few more. I did 3 speed workouts because I ended up going out and doing a workout on Tuesday, and then on Thursday I ran a 5K PR at the event, and then the day after, Yoakum, he
Oh yeah.
connected me with a guy named Tim Riley who trains a bunch of people, but most notably, Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons, the running back, who's just the freakiest athlete you've ever seen. Um, Him and I went to the track for a track day. I think my ego kind of got to my head, and I probably just wanted to show off a little bit too. But I also thought it would be a cool opportunity to go for my mile PR. I'd never broken 5 minutes in the mile before. I mean, I'd done it, but downhill, so that doesn't count. So I wanted to do it legitly on the track. My legs and my body and my mind were cooked. Like I was dead, like dead in the water, dead to rights, like walking around for 8+ hours at the expo each day, plus a run club beforehand, run club afterhand, and all that socializing in between and afterward really just, sucked all the energy out of me. But I think that the sunlight and the camaraderie between someone else that's just absolutely getting after it and bettering himself really like put me to another level where I was like, I'm gonna go for this. I'm gonna try it. So I ended up going up from a mile PR, which is 5:06. I wanted to break 5 minutes, no more, no less, because I didn't really think I had more in me. I ended up going out in the first lap in like 62 seconds, which is like 4:10 per mile, which was absurd. After that, I was gassed for the
Cooked.
next 3 laps. Totally, I was like, I'm just gonna walk it in at this point. Like, this is embarrassing. There's like high school kids on the track and in the field, like watching me do this as I'm just like getting absolutely annihilated. So I ended up running like 4:53, 4:54, which is
So you
really
broke
cool.
5.
So I broke 5. Yep. So the speed block's going really well. That was a good sign that if I was able to do that and set my 5K PR the day before on legs that were in a less than ideal position, I think I'm in a really good spot going into this official Black Canyon block. I think Hayden does it in a way where the blocks are like 10 to 12 weeks. So like these past 8 weeks has just been like base building and speed building. Now it's gonna be like more specific, like Black Canyon stuff leading up to the race, February 8th. Excuse me. So that was really good. And I got 2 more things quickly here before we close out. Um, I just wanted to remember one more thing from the event, and it was one that this was the least expected thing of the entire event, the most random thing, the most one-off thing. So at the end of Thursday, the second and final day of the event, I had kind of accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I talked to the people I wanted to talk to. I went over to the booths that interest me already, the booths I'd already known about, brands I'd already known about. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna throw like a dart on the dartboard and just go to the corner of the convention center and check out what's going on over there. So, so I ended up at 910 Shoes, and they're a shoe company, and they're the first company at the running event that comes from Indonesia. There was like 5 or 6 people on their team there. I think at least two or three of them had never been to the U.S. before, which is really cool.
Really?
So this product designer, the senior product designer, who I've been in contact with now, he brought their owner, the CEO, who hadn't been to the U.S. before, a few associates, and then they had someone else working in the U.S. currently, one person in Colorado, as like their, I think, creative director. So I walked over there. It was the end of the convention. I was the only person at their booth at the time. Things were kind of wrapping up, and they kind of all came up to me and almost give me like a royal treatment. Like they treated me like I was a total like king. It was awesome. Like they didn't know who I was. They saw my badge. They saw that I was press. So maybe maybe they thought I was more important than I was, in a way. Like maybe they thought like I was someone that like would be worth talking to. But like, nonetheless, like they
You
treated
are.
me. Yes, exactly. They treated me super nice, and they wanted to get my opinion on the shoes. They wanted to know like, how they could like better their strategies, because they're in Indonesia is like one of the biggest shoe companies there, but they want to break into the U.S. market. So they wanted to like figure out how to do that. So this is like their big move there. So they had shirts that said like Jakarta to Austin, and it was super cool that they were taking this as like a huge opportunity for them, because it is like it inspired me. They're putting themselves out there. They're flying across the world to make this happen. They made a colorway of a shoe dedicated to Austin. Like they had like cactuses on their shirts. Like it was really cool the lengths that they were going to make this happen. And I ended up getting like three of their business cards. One was the creative director, one was the co-founder, president, director, and one was the sales and marketing director. And I ended up doing This is the most funny thing. I ended up doing like a live like shoe review just out of nowhere. So like this guy on their team, one of their associates, like just pulls up his iPhone, and then the product designer comes over to me and he's like, "We're gonna do a shoe review. See what you think." And I'm like
Oh
holding
my
this shoe.
goodness.
I had just seen it, and it was sweet. It was this new Trail Runner. It had a Vibram outsole, and I kind of just had to go off the top of my head in terms of like what I liked, um, what things that interest me, and basically say like I could see myself wearing this in Salt Lake City, Utah, at some point. So then they end up following up with me, and now they are sending documents to their factory for me to be able to wear test their shoes for them to go
No way.
mass production. So they'll be sending me a few pairs of shoes,
That's
in different
sick.
different sizes to try them out, to see how I like them, and like give feedback on what they could do better. Um, and they really respect my opinion and what I have to say. So that was like the funniest thing, because it was like on a whim I went over there, had no like really like I don't know, initial interest, but the interest they kind of showed in me and the love that they showed me really went a long way in like how much like I would look into their brand now, which is really really it was wholesome. It was like that's a good way to put it. It was a very wholesome interaction with 5 6 different members of their team that they had talked to, and it all went back to the first event I went to, the A6 Trail Cleanup. They were the first people I saw walking down the street as I was running from my place. They were the first people I had seen at the running event or interacted with and just said hi to, and they all said hi back to me at like
Mm.
6 in the morning when it was dark out. So it was like a full circle event.
Dude, that I mean, that it's funny you say that because you had said in the beginning that you don't think people in our position needed to go on that first day, but you kind of like
I
you
know
just
now.
wrapped in a story where it's highly beneficial to do so.
Yes.
And to bring back a point from a previous episode, that's a great opportunity for you to tell that story on either your personal or the Ultra Ascent. Just talk about that story and what happened. That's a great
Yeah.
story. That's
Yeah.
a very cool story, and it's wholesome, like you said. So,
It was really cool.
this is me pushing you too
Yes,
to tell
sir.
that story online.
I'm on it, dude. I'm on it. But I just want to, last thing here, close out with just thanking the people from the running event and the PR people there for even allowing us the opportunity to attend and to be witness and experience the event, because it couldn't have been possible without them, and um, super grateful for that opportunity. And hopefully next year we've already got some plans to go bigger and create some cool things.
Yeah.
I know Becky Hendy was the PR person that approved my media application, so don't want to put her on blast, but I also just want to thank her so much. We had a really cool interaction on the first day. I had missed like the 10:30 a.m. like media group meetup at a certain place in the convention center. But in the meantime, I was talking to a bunch of different brands, having a good conversations. Um, Ended up, talking to, Zach Miller, Seth Ruling, Esther from North Face, and she had walked over, and I was like, oh, sorry, like I I was like, sorry, like I missed the media meeting, the get together, and she's like, no, it looks like you have found the right people and you're in the right place, and like you're where you should be, and like that was just like, there's people out there that are just like looking out,
Yeah.
looking out for us, which is just yeah, it's just like unbelievable to me, but yeah, we're excited for next year,
Yeah.
San
Maybe
Antonio.
let's go. Let's go. Yeah. Thank you again to the running event. And thanks for sharing your experience. It's cool to hear.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to know any more, I've got plenty of more stories, details, um, you know, tips. So if you're interested and you could see yourself like going to the running event, or you're just interested in what even happens at the running event, what's it about, just message me, message Ultra Ascent, and we can uh, we can fill you in, because um, it's kind of an exclusive event, but it's not as well. Like it feels like if you're not there, you're missing out on a lot. But I want to open it up and show people that you're not missing out on a ton. So
Yeah. All right. Episode 6.
episode 6 in the books.